Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Light Haven podcast, the podcast for all things spiritual, mystical, well-being focused, and energetic. We're pleased to have you here with us today. What are we doing, B? What are we up to?
Well, we're just having a quick catch up. It's been a wee while. I've been on holiday for the past couple of weeks and took a bit of a break, come back, and now I'm sick. So if you hear my voice sounds a little bit different, a little bit snuffly, I'm just getting over just yeah, getting
You're
over a sickness.
recovering.
I'm
Yes.
recovering. Yes, that's right. And
Well, yeah, I have to say that I can't hear anything. Like
oh,
maybe you feel
okay,
very
good.
sick, but I certainly can't
Oh, good,
hear
good.
it.
That's the goal. I would just
But
die
it's
afterwards. No, I'm just kidding.
oh, it's
No,
so
no.
true. It's so true that when you go on holiday, sometimes you can be so busy and moving around
Mhm.
and doing things. And then after, you actually need a holiday from your holiday.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It was great though. Like made a lot of memories, had a lot of experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise experienced. So it was all worth it. And yeah, just coming back was just a little bit of a reality check. And yeah, normally it's hard
Oh,
just to get back into it, even after such a good holiday.
yeah.
But then to add like sickness on top of that is just doubly difficult.
And
So
especially because you're working as well.
yeah, yeah. So I was working from home. I didn't want to pass on any sicknesses to the office. So just working from home and yeah, I think if anything, it was good for me just because it gave me something to have to wake up to. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, I
Mm,
can't just mope around and feel sorry for
yeah.
myself, feeling sick. I have to actually get up. I have to get myself ready because I have responsibilities. Um, so it was kind of good in that sense where I was not wallowing in self-pity.
But was it also good that you were sick because then at least after it allowed you to transition after such a big holiday, you don't have to go straight into the office and show your face. You can
Yeah,
just work at
actually,
home a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it definitely helped in the sense that there would have been this expectation for me to go into the office at least once or twice in the week just to show my face. But with yeah, being not feeling well, it gave me a good excuse to just stay at home in the comforts of my own home and work away on my own, I suppose. So yeah. But
Nice.
I heard it. I know it was your birthday the other day. So
Yes.
happy birthday to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
And you had a bit of a get together last night, which unfortunately I
Yes.
wasn't able to attend, and I was just really kicking myself. I wish I could
Oh,
have been there. So
oh,
how did it
we
go?
missed you. But it
Mhm.
was so lovely. We had maybe 20 something people in this small house.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
but it was just the right amount. Any more, well, we would have felt it was too crowded, but it was like, different people could go in their different pockets and have their discussions. And there was probably something and someone for everyone. I'll tell you something funny. So one of the guests, Joe, he when I messaged him, I said, "Oh, hey mate, like come to this party." And he goes, and I said to him, "Just for fun, it's not a tuxedo event or anything, but just for fun, we're doing a black and white dress code." And he messaged to say, "Oh, great, I know what I'll be wearing." And no one expected, but it kind of makes sense because it was May the 4th. He came dressed as a Star Trooper from Star Wars.
Oh my
So
gosh,
he
that's
had,
so funny.
yeah, he had the white um, mask
Yes.
head and
Yeah.
the armor and the gun.
Did you take a picture of that? I need
No,
to
we
see.
didn't. I'm
Oh
gutted. Like
man.
we were just also present. We didn't take many pictures. I just took two photos in the kitchen of a few people because my mom always wants to see photos of these parties. And if I went into the living room, like there was too many people in there, it probably wasn't respectful to just go, haha, I'll take a photo of all of you. But we
Yeah.
just had a couple people in the kitchen that we took some photos with, but he wasn't in
Yeah.
the photo groups.
I think I saw that picture and I was like, oh, that looks so nice. You look like you're having a good time, surrounded by friends, and some family showed up as well.
Yes, yes, my brothers came and one brother's partner came, and they all brought such lovely gifts. And
Mm,
they did sort of stay in the kitchen, but anyone who came in the kitchen, then they were like their own little group and having their
yeah.
conversations over here. But it was really interesting. And I had great conversations with one of the guests who actually we're hoping to get him on the show at some
Oh,
stage in the
great.
future as well, Arlen. So he
Okay.
works he works with he works with all sorts of people in coaching for them to achieve their best and their life goals, but especially he's been working a lot with people in relationships,
Oh,
um,
okay.
couples and their challenges, and helping them to be honest and authentic with each other and to have those courageous conversations
Yeah,
when
yeah,
it's I think courageous conversations is almost like a cliche. I know definitely at work we talk about it a lot, but it's one of those things where you can just keep talking about it and not actually do it
hmm.
because those kinds of exchanges that need to take place can be so confronting that you can almost pretend to do it or do it here and there, but still not really face up to the heart of some issues. So we had a full, in depth discussion about my relationship with a family member.
Oh, great. How
And
did that go?
well,
I mean, no need
funnily,
to divulge as much
no,
as you
no,
want.
I'm actually okay to share about it. And at some stage today, I need to call her and also have a courageous
Yeah, yeah, sure.
conversation with this family member as well. But the interesting thing about emotions is that we can often look at other people and pick up on what they're going through or how they're reacting in certain situations. And maybe we even have a good gauge of our emotions, but we all have our blind spots. So in my conversation with Arlen, he was identifying my blind spots. And I have
Mm.
to say I was very resistant to the point where I almost couldn't see my own resistance. But as we kept talking, then you can feel your excuses falling away and you have nowhere to stand until you go, oh, actually, you're right. You are right.
Yeah.
And it was to do with resentment that I was harboring. And I think I kind of knew, but when you're in denial, you say to yourself that no, there's nothing there. I don't feel resentful. Peace, love, and light. But actually, there's something there. And I know that a couple months ago, when I did mindfulness facilitators training, part of our training included a practice called self inquiry. And with self inquiry, you open yourself up, you get yourself into a state where you are observing and you're observing openly to notice and see exactly what is deep down inside. And normally, these are the things we suppress and deny. But I was open and watching, and emotions came up in that session. I think I told you about this before. And it was a wave of unexpected emotion. There was a lot of pain and hurt and sadness and frustration. So that's great for a pity party. But what Arlen helped me to see was that I was doing that to myself. And I was blaming her in my head and making a story in my head about how she was the bad guy, and then looking for all the evidence to prove that she did me wrong, when all she was doing was being her, who she is. And I was there demanding that she be not who she is, and then getting angry about it, and then pretending to be kind and loving. So not being honest and authentic, not telling her how I truly feel, and smiling to her face, but being full of anger, suppressing that anger, and pretending everything is rosy, and continually feeling hurt. But also, I was the one that was making myself feel hurt.
Wow, that's such deep insight as into a situation that I feel like you would have never been able to get to on your own. So it's such testament to the need to having to go and seek out professional help sometimes to guide you through the situation. And that's the thing, is sometimes you will be shown things that you have been maybe unwilling to see, and it's always
That's
good to
right.
have that third person to show you.
Yes. And one of the amazing things that he shared with me was about taking action. And because I often have lots of deep reflections and insights about myself and other people. And you sort of go, well, there, now I see it. The work is done. And he said, no, no, the work is now you need to go and have a conversation, and you need to be authentic with her, and you don't need to demand her to do anything because that's trying to change her, but you need to tell her the truth. And the truth is that you are feeling resentful. The truth is that you've been harboring judgment and shame and all of these feelings around your relationship, and you've been lying about it, and you are not being honest and expressing your truth. And because you are withholding your truth, that's why you are suffering, and you are holding on to your resentment. So, funny thing, he asked me, say this out loud. Say that you love her. And that is where I felt my resistance. I froze.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Arlen, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. I don't love her. I don't love her. I'm not saying it. And he said, but you do, don't you? And I said, I can't. I have so much anger. I have so much bitterness. And these are and he said, do you see how you are the one holding on to these things? This is everything to do with you. And when I found that I was frozen and I couldn't say, I love her, that's when I could see my clinging. That's when I could see how I was holding on to it. And he said, don't you want a happy, thriving, successful relationship? And I said, no, I want nothing to do with her. And he said, you create your world. You can create a thriving, happy relationship, but you don't want to. So all of this pain and judgment and resentment is the world that you are creating. So now you can decide, are you going to hold on to it and have that creation, or are you going to make a new creation? And then all of a sudden, I let go. And really what I had to let go of was my pride, my wanting to be right, and clinging to that story. I was very, very attached to it. And you'll know, Bianca, because I think I've been telling this story for years. And you can see when other people are telling a story, but actually we all do it. And that was my story, and it was just a story. And I'll share one more thing that was really a revelation for me. So I said, Arlen, sometimes she will give someone a gift, and maybe it is an expensive purchase that involves a slot in their calendar, like she could go and book a holiday for someone, and that's a very expensive purchase, but she didn't ask the person if they were free. And now they're booked into that holiday. And yes, they can say no, they can express that boundary, but they will feel hugely obligated because of how expensive the gift was. So then they'll go and they'll feel resentful, or maybe they'll get over it. But for me, I would feel resentful that a gift was given to me. It was expensive and it involved a slot in my calendar that I wasn't asked about. And he said, "Do you know that's a story you're telling yourself?" I said, "How? Isn't she being wrong?" And he said, "Well, here's the fact. The fact is,
you were given a gift.
Everything else about it is the story you're telling about it." And I said, "But I've expressed that boundary that please don't do that. Please ask." But then it happened again. And he said, "Do you see how you're trying to control another person and make them different to who they are?" And I said, "Yes, but that's in the boundary training. Don't we coach people in how we want them to treat us?" And he said, "Well, you can tell people how you feel, and you can decide to shut them out of your life, but you can't hide behind a story and pretend it's true when it's not. The fact is, someone bought you a gift, and here's the kicker, to somebody else, that would have been an amazing gift. Like, imagine if you had a husband that showered you with gifts and said, 'Darling, we're going to the movies, and here, we're going to this concert. I booked us a holiday,' and was paying for stuff. Wouldn't you love it?" And I was so resistant. I said, "No, I would hate a husband who did that for me. Please don't." And then he said, "What you really have is there's a small child inside of you from your childhood that wasn't heard. And you have a strong need to be heard. So you're expressing that need in this situation by projecting that wound onto the situation where someone's done something lovely and bought you a gift, but because of your need to be heard, now you're telling a story about how they did something bad, but it's nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. And it is not their fault. It is the conditioning of your past that is projecting out as a story." And that's where I went, "Oh, I have nowhere to go now. You got me."
Yeah, it's so true. I wasn't seeing that. Normally, when someone's telling me, sharing with me something, I can look to see where that conversation is heading. But this one, I was like, wow, that's really deep. I would not have pictured that. But it makes so much sense. I can see what he says. It's like you are that child that needs to be heard, and it's like, "I told you I didn't want this, and you're still doing it for me," kind of thing, like that powerlessness. But of course, that's the story you're telling yourself, not realizing, that you actually do have a choice in the situation, and that everything that you're thinking is all a projection of your own story, as opposed to, because I think, yeah, that's true. Someone else might be so grateful and be like, "Wow, this will be great. Thank you so much for the gift," and look forward to that experience of whatever has been locked in, whether it's a holiday or an event that they go to. And whereas you, it's different, and that's because of your childhood conditioning in a way. So
That's right.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is that I told Arlen, I said, "Actually, here's the messed up part. I actually want that ticket." And I'm really happy that she paid for it.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm angry at her because she didn't ask me. And he was like, "You should know by now, that's just what she does." So,
Nothing that's her way.
Exactly. Yeah. And so all my responsibility is to express my feelings. And of course, this doesn't negate that thing of, at any time you can decide what you will and won't participate in. But the reason I was angry was because if I wanted to be assertive about my boundary, I could decline the gift, but I actually wanted the ticket. So it was nothing to do with the gift. It was to do with my own wound of not feeling heard, which is typical for a lot of children because you're told, be quiet, sit down, be nice, stop talking. And I know I'm guilty of having said that to my son as well. So it's something that can happen to a lot of us, but that it was such a revelation to have that mirror and that light. And there were things that I knew, but I wasn't open to knowing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So having the conversation uncovered those things, and I really squirmed. And then he said to me, now I want you to take action. So I want you to have a conversation with her. And I said, yeah, I'm sure. First of all, I need to sit with all of this information. And then I need to see how her time zone is doing because she's currently overseas. And it probably would be better in person. So we should just have this conversation face to face when she comes back. And next week I'm working. And he said, do you hear how your mind works? Those are a whole series of excuses. And he said, if you were paying me at this stage, I would force you to have the conversation in X hours. And I went, oh, okay. So he wanted me to have the conversation with her by 12:30 today. And that would be courageous. And every day that I put it off is less and less courageous and not addressing and fixing the problem. What's that?
I just had a question as well about this because I know when approaching someone else who's involved in, say, your healing, your own healing, and you're approaching someone to talk with them, I'm wondering if there's a part where there's considerations on their end on whether they want to have that conversation with you. And so I'm wondering what Arlen has to say for that, because I know I like what you've just shared with me is everything that you've learned about yourself, and nothing really, there's no action or anything required of say the so-called the family member, but it'd still be a lot to unpack even with their participation in the conversation. So I'm wondering if there was considerations made on the other person's end, whether they could, whether it's more of an invitation or like a command, like,
yeah,
it's a two-way thing.
It is, but I think when you first talk with him, you can be resistant to everything he says because it's so radical. But I'm starting to understand what he means by it. The whole foundation of how this works is that for it to be a proper relationship in the first place, both parties need to show up fully as wholly and fully as themselves, own it, stand in their truth, and be authentic. Now it's a real relationship, and that involves a bit of healthy conflict and hard conversations. And when we are caught in judgment and blame and storytelling and keeping our mouths shut, the whole thing is fake and hurtful and full of suffering and lies in our heads. So he was pushing me to express my truth and be authentic without storytelling. Because I said, okay, Arlen, this is what I'm going to say to her. I'm going to say, I feel resentful. I have been telling a story in my head about how you have been the bad guy. I've been blaming you. I've been carrying guilt and shame and hatred and all of these emotions. And the idea is now I stop because I have delivered my soul, so to speak. I've expressed the truth. I'm not lying now. I'm telling her how I felt, how I've been feeling. And when I was rehearsing that with him, I then said, because there was this time when you bought this thing for me, and then he went, Oh, see, you lost it because you were about to express your authentic truth and you went back into storytelling and blaming. And you're busy trying to follow some boundary guidelines, but based on the story that you're telling and the blame and the judgment. So the idea is to speak freely and express your truth, and then the other person knows where everyone stands, and they may or may not do the same depending on where they're at.
Well, that's
But
what I was thinking. I'm like, if you're going to say this, like, what, how do we take into consideration how they're feeling? I mean, about it?
well, that's what I said to him.
Mhm.
I said, but she'll be really hurt. So I said, that's too hurtful. Why would I say that to her, that I've been harboring resentment towards you and I've seen you as the bad guy for a long time in my head. And so all of those happy memories we had are now tainted by me having seen her as the bad guy and telling all these stories to myself. And he said, but that's the truth, isn't it? That's the truth, that you've been doing that. So you're not telling her that you plan to keep making her the bad guy in your head, but you're telling her the truth about what's been going on for you. You're expressing your true feelings and being honest, even if it's uncomfortable. And could she be hurt by it? Yes, she could. She could be hurt by it. But if it was all based on a lie, then it wasn't real anyway. And once you get into a routine with your people where everyone learns to be authentic, it will become the norm. But someone has to take the step to start this new way of showing up with each other, to kind of, get the ball rolling for how we can be authentic with one another. And again, you can't control the other person. Obviously, it's ideal if both parties are doing this kind of work so they know where you're coming from. But then you can also explain it to them. You can say, look, I've been speaking to a relationship coach. So you don't just come out and say, haha, I feel resentful, and give the context for why you're doing this. In my conversation with this relationship coach, we were able to identify the story that I've been telling myself that's not based in fact. And because I've been attached to this story and I've been seeking supporting evidence for it, everything that you've done, I've been twisting in my head to support this false notion. And it's led to a lot of resentment. And in my session with this coach, he's advised me that our relationship has its best chance to do its best and be the best kind of dynamic that it can be when we learn to drop our walls and show up authentically and speak our truth, so that it is built on truth and we can have these open conversations where there's an understanding between each other, and then build something that's real. And I love you and I'm interested in building something that's real with you. And if I hold on to these emotions, they're not healthy for me. And they're going to taint our relationship dynamic and the love that we can have between us as family. So that is why I'm being open and honest to express my truth. And I know that I can't control you. And my role in this relationship is to accept you as you are if I want to participate in this relationship, and vice versa. And I know that she's done a lot of work around this to accept me. She's had lots of stories about me and things about me that she wished she could change. and she's moved on a lot of those things, but I didn't, because I wasn't doing those same coaching sessions. So I guess we're lucky in that we've both been introduced to similar frameworks and ways of communicating. It doesn't mean that all the problems go away, but it does mean that we get to free ourselves from the things that we are attached to so we can create what we really want. And as long as we're attached to the negative dynamic, we can't move forward to a positive dynamic. So even if the other person doesn't know about these things, in the same conversation, we can start to tell them, I've been learning about the storytelling in our head. And I know a lot of people know about this, but I never realized, even when I was doing it, it was always someone else is telling a story in their head. But now I can see where I'm telling a story in my head, because I've learned in this scenario to separate the fact from the fiction. And 90% of everything that I was experiencing in our relationship was the fiction that I created. And it was making me feel horrible. And it is not your fault. It was all my own projection. And I want us to have a better connection than that. So that is why I'm expressing my truth. And I'm sharing these feelings so I can let go of them. And actually, I do love you. And I do want to have an amazing relationship with you where we show up for one another and we can be authentic and no one feels all twisted up into a ball and shoved into the corner, like they can't be free to express themselves, to be themselves. Because if we can both be ourselves, then we can decide, do you want to participate in a relationship with this person who is fully them? But if you decide to participate, then you have to accept the person as they are. So I was made to take my own medicine.
Yeah, wow. That just sounds like there's been a whole lot of growth coming from you in this realization of the situation with you and your family member. And it sounds promising. Like I really have a good feeling about this this new reality check that you've been handed to you. And although it must have really, I'm not sure if I want to say hurt, but it must have been a hard pill to swallow when you realized it was you that was telling these stories to yourself and that it's not the other person. So I know what it feels like to go into a counseling session and know exactly where the other person went wrong and be fully ready to share in your opinion on how they've done you wrong and all these things. And then you're sitting there hoping that the counselor is going to be like, okay, so and address this situation to the other party and it's all going to be resolved because now you've said your so-called truth. And you think everything's now other people are going to change now. But really, the change is going to be you. How are you going to change in the situation? And it sounds like you've got a good grasp on the truth of what's been going on beneath in your world with the loved one. I'm sure they don't know anything and they're just living their life, doing what they do, being their authentic self, and here you are playing to this narrative, this false narrative that you've created in your mind based on past and unhealed wounds. So I'm really proud of you, Ruth, for just having the conversation with someone, even if it didn't turn out the way you expected it to, and it all ended up being you to take accountability.
Yes, and that's the whole point.
Growth is not easy, and I I admire anyone who chooses to choose growth over being stuck in their ways and just continuously just living their life thinking, well, this is what it is, and rather than questioning things and being like, but maybe I should speak to someone about the way I'm feeling, and rather than just sitting in your resentment for the rest of your life. So yeah, I'm really this sounds really promising, and I hope that it all works out. And I know when we choose to be our authentic self, which I feel like we only just spoke about this in the people pleasing episode, is that
Yes.
yeah, when we are our authentic and unapologetic self, then we're surrounding ourselves with the people who are most in line with us. So I mean, I'm just so happy for you to have gone through this experience. At this point, it's only the beginning. You've yet to cross the line and actually have that conversation with your loved one. So I'm sure that it's all going to go
Yes.
well. But yeah, I'll be, yeah, I'm here for you. If you ever need someone to talk to, we always have really good conversations, and I cherish our conversations so much. So yeah, yeah. I don't want to say good luck. I don't know what to say in these situations. Like Godspeed. No.
I hope it goes well.
Right, right. Yeah.
And I know that it will, because now I can see a new vision of the relationship that I want to create.
Mm.
And I've seen the truth that the things that the stories in my head were, oh, she is manipulating everyone to push us together, to have this scene where we're all together as a family because that will make her happy. And Arlen said, if someone wants to bring the family together, then does that make them a bad guy? And I realized, wow, I've just been twisting everything in my head
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she can do nothing right. And it's when I finally saw it, I saw how ridiculous it was. It was pretty ridiculous.
Mm. Mm.
And
I mean, don't beat
just,
yourself up over it.
no. I mean, I feel sad for those beautiful things that were great, happy memories. And I was there thinking negatively about those good, happy times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's
that was my lesson. That was my journey. I needed to go through that. And that's why in the self-inquiry mindfulness practice, when it was coming up, it was something so big, because this had been going on for some years now. And it was this big ball of energy that was stuck. So I'm still going to work to unlock and move through this. But thank you so much for listening and being here.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, for being so vulnerable and being so raw and honest with not just yourself, but just with the whole situation. And it's not easy coming to these realizations. And this is just the beginning. There's a lot of work, I feel, that's involved with this newfound realization. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to now know what the things that need to be changed, that's putting it into action. That's the real test, because I've had realizations in difficult situations that I've been in with family members, or in a partnership, in a relationship with someone, and it's not until I'm actually faced with that situation that I have to make the decision. Am I going to choose to be resentful and stick with the narrative that I've been telling myself in my head? Or am I going to switch it up and show a little bit more patience, be a little bit more considerate, hear them out and listen to what they're telling me, even if what they're telling me doesn't make me feel good. Even if I don't agree with what they're saying, it doesn't matter. It's just trying to undo the thought process that naturally goes through your mind whenever you're in similar situations to what you were in previously. So, for example, with when you mentioned about trying to get the family together, and now you will have that same situation in the future because it's such a normal thing. Family wants to get together. If you're a big family, it takes a lot more effort to just round everyone up. And so there will be such situations where you will find yourself, I feel like your body is going to, it's where we hold a lot of the tension and a lot of the emotion. We have trapped emotions in our body. And so it's going to recognize the situation in the future. But the mind is where you have to switch it up and try and untrap those emotions so that it doesn't control your reaction. So that's what I'm saying. That's the work.
Yeah, still, I have to stay aware and conscious because the patterns still need to be broken.
Yes, and they only can get broken through action and through the situation playing out in a different light to how it would have normally played out previously. I'm still trying to unlearn lots of things about myself, and it's not just to do with siblings or family members. It's just to do with everything. The way I approach conflict, especially, and you can, as a human, we approach conflict in every little situation we find ourselves in, at work, with friends, with family, just being on the road and driving and someone cuts you off, or just real little things, you approach conflict every day. And how do you approach conflict? Are you going to fly off the handle, or are you going to be a little bit more patient and try and seek understanding before reacting? It's just, so yeah, definitely the growth and learning comes with time and through experiencing different things and making different decisions than before. So yeah, I I send you lots of love and support in this time of growth for you in your life. So yeah, sending you lots of hugs.
Thank you.
Hugs, of course, right now.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. I'm very excited. It's difficult to go through that resistance phase, but as you feel yourself coming on the other side, it is a relief. It is such a relief because holding on hurts.
Oh yeah.
And yes, you cause your own pain.
We hold on to the familiar. We hold on to that which is safe, even if it's not the best for us. Our minds tend to work in a way where we want to feel safe and secure, and sometimes safe and secure is repeatedly telling ourselves a false narrative.
That's right. And we get so used to it. That's where we get attached to it, because when we have to let go, we have to move into the unknown, and that's frightening. That's why it requires courage. And when Arlen said the word courage, I just felt like, yes, I know it's hard, but I see that for myself. It's not just what I need, it's what I will that I embody. Courage. And I know that I've had a history of sidestepping issues where if I need to address something, I like to address it by going round and round it and go, do you see my point? Because I don't need to get straight at it because it's so uncomfortable. And I go, see, I hope you understood. Well, the other person's going, huh?
Yeah.
So having courage is my new challenge, and I'm excited for it because we've been having a lot of trainings about it at work as well. And you can think you're courageous, but there's always room for improvement.
Oh yeah, totally.
So this has been a great conversation, and I really appreciate having you online. And we've gone real candid and uncut, and just had a lovely Sunday morning chatting about the things that have been going on for us. And there have been some big breakthroughs and learnings, and maybe our listeners might be interested in some of these frameworks. So please stay tuned, because we definitely plan to get Arlen on the podcast for an interview where we can hear more about the work that he does and some stories about the people that he's supporting, and where you can get in touch with him as well. But we'll see you very soon for another episode of the Light Haven podcast. And remember, the path to your best reality is in your hands to create when you become conscious.